Okay, so this is part 2 on how what the pellet stove is made of. So part 1, we looked at how to clean the pellet stove, and part 2, we're just going to look at some of the controls. Okay. So this thing here is the control board. And when you plug the stove in first, there'll be 4 or a certain number of flashes, and that's controlled by this switch right here, because you can use the control board for different stoves and you put it on the number corresponding to the stove. So let's do that. Plug it in down here. Hopefully it doesn't explode. Good. Okay, now we can see there's the blinking light. That's blue. That's good. We know that on this stove we can be pretty sure that that thermocouple that we talked about earlier is bad. Normally when they're bad, there'll be an amber flash that happens in the control board. So this one must be on the edge. But anyway, so that's the control board. We'll get more in depth in that later. This red light here is your call light, your call for heat light. That comes on when you turn the thermostat on, as it should. This is the main fuse for the stove. Okay, this down here is a vacuum switch, and that's a safety switch. You can see that there's a rubber hose attached to it, and that goes to the feeder, the feed tube right here. And when the exhaust blower is running, that's pushing air out the exhaust right there, and then sucking air through the stove. So on the outlet side of the stove you have pressure, and on this side of the exhaust blower you have vacuum, because it's sucking air. And that vacuum is all in the firebox here, and it also goes up the drop tube. And then when we look in the drop tube, you can see that hole in there is the nipple where the hose is attached. So you have vacuum going through that hose to the vacuum switch, and you have power on one of these wires all the time, and it's waiting for vacuum to pull contacts closed on this contactor block, and then the power comes through the other wire and goes through other safety switches and then to the control board to allow the auger motor, which is right there, to turn. Okay. So this is the auger motor. That's what turns the auger to feed the pellets. And that's simple enough. Then there's some things called snap discs. This is one of them. Yours is set up pretty much the same. You'll have a snap disc with 2 purple wires on it, and that controls the convection blower, which is your room blower, which is the one that blows the hot air through your heat exchanger tubes. So this is a normally open switch. The contacts are normally open until this thing heats up, and then it clicks closed, and then power, which is on one side, can then go to the other side, and then that wire will go down to the convection blower, which is down here on the floor. Squirrel cage motor, big long thing. Okay, so that's snap disc number 1. That's for the blower. This is an over temp snap disc here, and that's normally closed. So the contacts are normally closed, so you have electric going through to the disc and out the other disc normally all the time. But if it overheats, then the contacts open up and breaks power, and the stove will shut off. That's a manual reset button. If it does overheat, that'll pop up, and you can push it to reset it. And there's another snap disc back there. That's for the feed tube. If that overheats, it'll open up the same way as your snap disc number 2. It's also got a manual reset button on it. Okay. Not much more to them than that. Got some electrical tape on some wiring down here. That doesn't look so good. There's a wire nut there. Somebody did some jiggering with this. But that's basically how your pellet stove works. Then on the back, this is of course the exhaust without the pipe hooked to it like you have. And yours comes out, a T is hooked to it with a cap down here, and you can just take that cap off by going like that, and then like that, and then you have pipe coming up, and yours goes up and I think goes out the ceiling. Back here above where the electric cord plugs in is your thermostat block. So you have a red and a white wire for your thermostat. They screw into the 2 middle screws. The 2 outside screws just hold the block to the stove. Okay. That's pretty much old Nixter. And if I think of anything else, I'll make another video. But that's pretty much it.